Hey there and welcome to Geopolitics 411. Today our big story is the war between India and Pakistan. And why I'm calling it a war, it's because already it is happening, and some people argue that this could be the emergence of maybe the Third World War, because we are talking about two nuclear powers that are at war, and this war has been maybe going on for about 2 weeks now, and somehow there is escalations that's happening. So is it a threat to the globe? That's something everyone is arguing about. Could this be the emergence of, could it emanate to the unexpected nations getting us to World War III? Only time will tell. So India and the Pakistan conflict has seriously escalated in the last few hours, with, of course, Delhi missiles hitting targets inside Pakistan. So in the last few hours, India has allegedly lost, imagine this, 5 fire jets that have been, that were brought down by Pakistan. So, and of course, this was a retaliation after what happened. So, of course, you would ask what sparked the India-Pakistan tensions. I mean, these are two nations you generally wouldn't be expecting to have a war. But on April 22nd, a deadly attack in Pahalgam, I hope I get this, Pahalgam, Kashmir, killed 26 tourists, and these were mostly Indians. And of course, when that happened, India blamed Pakistan, saying that the militants were linked to a Pakistan-based group that is called Lashkar-e-Taiba. Very interesting names. So, of course, Pakistan denied any involvement, and the group that first came out and claimed responsibility later took it back. And of course, this attack became the trigger for the rising tensions between the two countries. And now, these two countries that are nuclear armed are sort of living with tensions. So in response, India launched what they called Operation Sindor on May 6th. Of course, with this operation, they bombed 9 suspected militant camps in Pakistan's administered Kashmir. So, of course, Pakistan claimed it shot down the 5 Indian jets, though this remains unconfirmed or unverified from the Indian side. So, India, on the other hand, says the bombing was actually for militants, but Pakistan, on the other side, says this is not true. The place where it was bombed, it's a place where it was occupied by civilians, women, children, and of course they're saying they have many women and children who've been taken to hospital from this attack. So since then, both sides have exchanged gunfire and shelling across the border, and explosions have been reported in a state called Srinagar and Muzaffarabad. And this is as a result, now, after this has happened, Pakistan has moved troops to the border, of course, for protection purposes, fearing that the Indian invasion would go on and on. While India, on the other hand, has taken strong diplomatic steps against Pakistan. So you may want to understand how these two, both India and Pakistan, how each is responding. India has taken harsh measures that have included suspending a key water sharing treaty that is called the Indus Water Treaty, expelling Pakistan diplomats. So this is a diplomatic affair. So one, they have a treaty about water and usage, and this water goes to Pakistan and is used for agriculture. So they've decided to suspend that key water sharing treaty. Number 2, they've expelled Pakistan diplomats, and of course they've banned Pakistani flights from its airspace. So of course with that tells you the conflict is on. So it is also reported that water from India released water from a dam causing floods there's a certain dam that is in India, and India decided to release water from this dam, and this caused flooding in Pakistan. And of course, on the other side, besides causing the floods, it reduced the water flow in another river which feeds from this dam. So Pakistan sees these actions as aggressive and has warned that cutting water supply could be an act of war, which actually could be considered, because if their survival for agriculture is tied to this water agreement, and then India decides to cut it, that means that's a conflict right there that maybe the world will come in and help sort, or maybe the two nations will sit down and agree how to sort it. So Pakistan, in return, has also closed its airspace to Indian planes. So it's a tit for tat. They have stopped trade with India and cancelled all Indian visas. So diplomatically, it's severe for these two nations. Pakistan has also threatened to withdraw from the similar agreement, which is a key peace treaty. So, of course, if they withdraw the peace treaty, it means the two nations are easily okay with the conflict and the fighting will go on. Both countries under domestic pressure from both, the residents or the citizens. India's public demands retaliation because they feel, no, we can't just sit and let Pakistan attack us. On the other hand, Pakistan's military is trying to deter further Indian action, of course, with no major global mediation due to the other crises. Maybe the world is actually concentrating on Gaza, Ukraine, Russia-Ukraine war. Peace mediations by Trump, President Trump for Ukraine and Russia. Anyway, maybe these are some of the things and reasons as to why the world has not turned towards that direction for peace. Also, maybe European Union, maybe they're not interested in the stability of these nations. So, of course, having the world turn a blind eye to this, of course, is a risk of escalation from both sides. So what are the risks and possible outcomes? The biggest danger is that both India and Pakistan have or rather possess nuclear weapons. And if the war on nuclear starts, we will have an end of the world, so to say, because when two countries fight and both have nuclear weapons, we who are far may be affected, but at the end of the day, it probably would be the end of the world in a way. So any major conflict and could easily spiral or get out of control. So while full-scale war, there are critics who are arguing that this may not be a full-scale war. But the truth is any small mistake, any small miscommunication could lead to an unintended escalation. So past crises that happened, like say in 2019, they were resolved through talks. But you see, this time the global powers are distracted by these other wars that are happening in the world and other eventualities in the world. We even have the election of the Pope distracting us at the moment. So that also could be a reason as to why other forces are not focused on that. The Pope would have maybe spoken about it, Pope Francis, but you see, we buried him like 2 weeks ago. So at the moment, that seat has no one. And of course, now from that aspect, maybe no religious leader is respected enough like the Pope that could call out the end to this conflict. So there are fewer options that are left for mediation, but we hope that will happen. Another major concern is water. India's suspension of the Indus Water Treaty could hurt Pakistan's agriculture and the economy. Of course, the economy of Pakistan is also dependent on agriculture for quite a huge chunk. And meanwhile, border clashes continue and both sides are on high alert. While military hotlines, they are open, and strong national feelings in both countries make de-escalation difficult. So these are the factors that could affect the whole thing of negotiating for peace between the two nations. For now, the situation, of course, remains tense, and the world watches closely to see if diplomacy can prevent further violence. Of course, world over, all wars, no war is won at the battlefield. Wars are won where people talk, and that is where diplomacy comes in. So at the end of it all, this conflict between Pakistan and India, people will have to sit down and talk, and that will be the only way to resolve this conflict. Will President Trump offer his aid to, he wants to be seen as the guy who ends wars. Will he manage this time? Well, only time will tell. But share with us what you think about this whole idea on the comment section, and we will catch you on the next episodes. The world is fast-paced and sometimes you miss the action. What perspectives do you have? What is the truth? Is the world at war? Join me, Sarah Mwangi, as we make sense of the information overload.